Hello YouTube!
Stop! You violated the law!
Yes, you are very much violating the law, as this is the second part of a collaboration between me and another Elder Scrolls lore YouTuber by the name of LadyOfScrolls. Check out her part of the video in the description of this one, and I will let her take it from here.
Hello there, I'm LadyOfScrolls, and I also make Elder Scrolls lore related content. Come over to my place for part 1 on the Daedric artifacts, and I'll be sure to link you back to this video. Feel free to check out some of my other content, although it isn't much as I'm quite new to the platform. But feel free to stop by for part 1 to check out some of the other Daedric artifacts.
Now that the little guys who have not yet watched that part of the video yet are out of the pool, it's time for us to kick off with the second part of the collaboration. In this collaboration we try to make a list of all known Daedric artifacts and give a short summary of their history and use, and also give a short summary of the Daedric prints themselves. Of course the descriptions will be quite short and in general, since this is a long list and just one video. Well, 2 videos, of course. With that out of the way, let's immediately kick off with this video. So let's pick up where we left off, with Meridia, the Daedric Prince of Life and Living Energy. As Daedric Prince of essentially all living things, she is very much against the undead, and often has her followers go on missions to eradicate the undead. She is one of the few Daedric princes whom it's considered acceptable to worship, as she is considered to be one of the few who are not fully evil. Now, like all princes in the previous part of this video, she has her own artifacts. The most well-known artifact she has is this one, Dawnbreaker. The Dawnbreaker is a legendary sword created by the Daedric Prince Meridia to eradicate the undead, with the holy light residing within the sword. It is said to be made out of ebony, but the light of Meridia herself has apparently altered the color. This holy light seems to be coming from the crystal embedded in the crossguards, which is known as the Dawnstar gem. Not the city Dawnstar, but like a star at dawn. One of the distinctive elements within this sword is that when it's used against the undead, it will sometimes cause a fiery explosion upon impact. Something that has definitely helped it to be one of my favorite swords in the game. Throughout history it's been one of the rarer artifacts, as to our knowledge it only appeared twice as far as we know. It appeared in the Elder Scrolls Online during the Plane Melt, where it was used in the Somerset Isles against the Court of Bedlam. However, the sword was later corrupted by the Daedric Prince Nocturnal when it was used against her, and it would become known as Duskbringer from that moment on. And it would be used for activities against the will of Meridia. However, the hero of the Elder Scrolls Online, the Soulless One, was able to stop the Nocturnal's plot, and eventually Dawnbreaker was returned to Meridia's influence and would once again be known as Dawnbreaker. The second time in history it appeared was in a less significant event. This was during the Skyrim Civil War, when the Dragonborn would purge Meridia's temple of the undead and would claim Dawnbreaker. And we probably all really remember that mission fondly, you know, with when you find the beacon of Meridia. I've got so tired of that. I never pick it up anymore. But never mind. Her next artifact is the Ring of Khajiit. It is a lesser known artifact, and it's a ring that was known to make the wearer invisible and muffle the wearer's sound. Originally the ring was owned by Mephala until it was stolen by a Khajiit burglar called Regine, who became the most renowned burglar in Khajiit history, and it would ascend to godhood within the Khajiit theology. Something I talked about before in my video on the Khajiit Pantheon of Gods, so check that one out if you want to know more about Regine. After Regine took it and presumably died at one point, the ring came into Meridia's sphere of influence, as she later gave it to the champion of Cyrodiil after eradicating some undead summoners for her. Whether we have to consider this artifact an artifact of Meridia or one of Mephala is debatable. I decided to attribute it to Meridia, as we can obtain the ring in Oblivion by doing one of her quests. But that is just my interpretation of events, of course, as it was supposedly created by Mephala, however it came into the influence of Meridia. So I placed it with Meridia, but you might place it with Mephala. It's just your own interpretation of things.
Molag Bal, Firestone, or Stonefire in the Aldmeri language, is the Daedric prince whose sphere is the tyranny and subjection of mortals. He is known as the god of schemes, the king of rape, the harvester of souls, the lord of brutality, and the prince of rage. His main aspiration is to reap the souls of mortals and bring them within his command by extending seeds of suffering and dissonance in the mortal realms. The Mace of Molag Bal, also known as the Vampire Mace, holds an enchantment that depletes the stamina and magicka of its sufferers and passes on the intake to the wielder. The mace is also known to have the capability to relocate the enemy's vitality to the wielder or trap the enemy's soul. The Mace of Molag Bal is told to be a good weapon of choice for subduing magic users. Many myths encompass the mace. Emergence of the mace traces back to when Molag Bal entrapped an orcish blacksmith and imprisoned him in the depths of Cold Harbor. The blacksmith had turned soul-shriven and was enforced to construct the mace. Molag Bal gifts the mace to those he feels deserving. It is to be expected that when such a dynamic mace of carnage falls into mortal hands, a path of havoc is certain to follow. During the plane meld of the Second Era 582, Molag Bal was observed wielding the mace himself, and had utilized it while clashing with the Soulless One. An agent of the Blades was endowed the mace by Molag Bal. The Nerevarine and the Champion of Cyrodiil were also gifted this relic, and lastly, the mace was given as a reward to the last Dragonborn in the 4th Era 201.
Now the next Daedric Prince is called Namira, Daedric Prince of Darkness, Shadows and Spirits. She is the patron deity of all spiders, insects and other creatures that are regarded as vile by mortals. Her plane of oblivion is called the Scudding Void, a world inhabited by dark spirits, and she has only one artifact that we know of, the Ring of Namira. The Ring of Namira is a ring that is rewarded by Namira to her devout followers. It was given to the hero of Daggerfall, the champion of Cyrodiil, and to the last Dragonborn over the course of their adventures. The ring's function seems to have changed over the years, but it's always been associated with quite vile and corrupted effects, like the opponent taking damage of their own attacks, to even the wearer being able to consume corpses for health. So, cannibalism. Let's not think about that too much before we can get demonetized, and let's continue to the next Daedric Prince.
Nocturnal, who is also understood as the Night Mistress, among other titles, is a Daedric prince whose scope is nightfall, shadows, and darkness. She is commonly characterized as a robed woman with dark hair, attended by pitch-black ravens, which are told to have the power of language and understanding. Nocturnal is said to be a matron figure to thieves. The Grey Cowl of Nocturnal once resided with the Daedric prince, Nocturnal. This cowl takes the structure of a dark leather coif and obfuscates the face of the wearer. The Grey Cowl is understood to have departed her custody at some point, and seems to have been purloined by the first guildmaster of the Thieves' Guild. The Grey Cowl was afflicted with a curse bequeathed by Nocturnal, which meant that the name of the cowl's wearer is vanished from mortal recollection. Whosoever wears it shall be lost in the shadows. His true nature shall be unknown to all who meet him. His identity shall be struck from all records and histories. Memory will hide in the shadows, refusing to record the name of the owner and any who meet him. He shall be known by the cowl, and only by the cowl. This curse was shattered when history was revised utilizing an Elder Scroll in the 3rd Era 433. The Grey Cowl was engraved with the expression Shadow Hide You, lettered in Daedric script. The Office of the Unseeing Eye, a branch of the cult of the Ancestor Moth, once coveted to uncover the cowl in order to see if the curse on it is real, and analyze it further for how to discharge the curse from it. The cowl was ultimately carried down from one guildmaster of the Thieves' Guild to the next, obligating the guildmasters to operate under the character of the Grey Fox. Even without the curse, the Grey Cowl remained to hold the capability to obscure the genuine identity of its wearer, and is still labeled as a symbol of the egregious Grey Fox. The skeleton key was designed by Nocturnal. Although it doesn't always take the embodiment of a key, it has occasionally materialized as a lockpick alternatively. In key configuration, it can be utilized to crack any lock. In the lockpick structure, it is a lockpick that which cannot rupture, and can crack even the most complex of locks. 2 restraints placed on the skeleton key by wizards were that the key could only be utilized once a day, and it would never be under the possession of one individual for too long, ultimately vanishing. This artifact serves as an apparatus for unlocking a variety of phenomenon, including portals, concealed aptitude, and other uncharted potentiality. However, its terminal responsibility is to unlock and hold open access to the Ebonmere, the entryway to Nocturnal's plane of oblivion, positioned in the Twilight Sepulchre in Skyrim. The Nightingales, agents of Nocturnal, are assigned with defending the Twilight Sepulchre and reclaiming the key should it be abducted. However, Nocturnal is told to tolerate the skeleton key being hijacked or misplaced systematically, whether by intention or indifference. In the mid-Second Era, the key was in the custody of Sothasil, preserved in Clockwork City. After the key was utilized by Nocturnal in a maneuver to conquer the Clockwork City, Sothasil handed the skeleton key to a Telvanni wizard for security. The skeleton key was later unearthed during the Imperial Simulacrum by the Eternal Champion in either Valenwood or the Somerset Isles, reports deviate. An unknown agent of the Blades was granted the skeleton key by a devotee of the Daedric Prince. The key later became into custody by the leader of the Thieves Guild in Vardenfell, which was then handed on to the Nerevarine in the Third Era 427. Then, in the Third Era 433, the key was granted to the Champion of Cyrodiil by Nocturnal. However, sometime prior to the Fourth Era 201, the key was robbed from the Twilight Sepulchre from a fraudulent nightingale. Its abiding absence concluded in misfortune for Skyrim's Thieves Guild. The last Dragonborn ultimately reclaimed the key and restored it to the Sepulchre. The Bow of Shadows is a bow constructed by Nocturnal. A tale tells that a fabled archer was gifted this bow for a classified assignment. The bow is told to gift its wielder invisibility and heightened speed. Approximate the closure of the Third Era, the bow came into custody of a necromancer, and in the Third Era 427, the Nerevarine also came into custody of this relic as well.
Now, another Daedric prince is called Peryite. Peryite is considered to be one of the weakest and least influential Daedric princes. His sphere is that of pestilence, tasks, and natural order. He depicts himself as a four-legged dragon, making him seem quite powerful, even if he's somehow considered to be not all that powerful. His plane of oblivion is called the Pit, a realm that looks a lot like the Deadlands, so Mehrunes Dagon's realm, with all the lava and shit. Even though he is not very influential, he has one artifact of its own that is known, and that's the Spellbreaker. Although its creator, Peryite, is one of the least influential Daedric princes, his artifact Spellbreaker has appeared in almost every mainline game to date, and it's known to be one of the oldest relics to date. It is a shield that's able to thwart both physical and magical damage, making it very useful, since it's essentially a shield and a ward spell in one. As it's an artifact, it has played important roles in history, for example during the First Era when it was wielded by a Dragon Priest, and later in the Second Era when the Dragon Priest was reawakened by Peryite's cult, and then it was once again used by that priest. Later in the Third Era it would appear quite often, as it was wielded by both the Eternal Champion, the Hero of Daggerfall, the Nerevarine, and the Champion of Cyrodiil. Ultimately, its last appearance was in the Fourth Era when it was wielded by the Dragonborn after completing a quest with the Afflicted for Peryite.
Sanguine Sphere is sybaritic festivity, seduction, and desirous luxury of more sinister qualities. Sanguine is often characterized as a stout man with Dromora-like qualities, always with a bottle in his hand or a tramp under his thumb. He's believed to command thousands of realms and has no solitary plane of oblivion. The Sanguine Rose was crafted by Sanguine and has been known to take on many aspects, including a physical rose, a wooden staff fashioned to take the appearance similar to a rose, or a staff-sized rose. This artifact is utilized to conjure lesser Daedra, who are hostile to all with exception to the wielder of the staff. However, the summoned Daedra is unmanageable, dissimilar to lesser Daedra conjured by natural means in conjuration. Each time the Sanguine Rose is utilized, it wilts and withers slightly, causing its petals to fall. When every petal breaks off, the staff surrenders its function. When that occurs, a new rose blossoms somewhere located in his many pocket realms of oblivion, and Sanguine then harvests it to give to a new champion one day. Before the Warp in the West, an agent of the Blades was granted the Sanguine Rose by a follower of Sanguine. A youthful Daedra-worshipping Martin Septim was a member of an organization that acquired the artifact for some time. Their trifling in Daedric magic slaughtered several members, which drove Martin away to convert to a priest in courtesy to the divines, resulting in the rose getting lost in the process. The Champion of Cyrodiil was awarded the rose from Sanguine in the Third Era 433. Then in the Fourth Era 201, Sanguine materialized himself as a Breton man titled Sam Gwythen, in which he challenged the last Dragonborn to a drinking contest, which led the Dragonborn on a trail of strange events, eventually ending in Sanguine gifting the last Dragonborn the rose. Sanguine is also credited with creating the 27 threads of the web spinner for Mafala to bestow upon the Morag Tong. The threads, all enchanted pieces of clothing or jewelry, were greatly sought after by the Grand Master of the Morag Tong in the Third Era 427.
Now, the next Daedric Prince has quite a lot of artifacts, and it's everybody's favorite Daedric Prince of Madness, Sheogorath, the Mad One, or the Unpredictable One. He is the Lord of the Shivering Isles, a plane of pure madness. He has so far appeared in almost every Elder Scrolls game, and he is one of the most influential yet most unpredictable Daedric princes. His first and probably my favorite artifact of all time is the Webberjack. The Webberjack is a staff created by Sheogorath himself. It's, well, sort of Sheogorath in staff form. A powerful but unpredictable staff. When cast, it has an effect that the caster cannot predict. It might be something good, it might be something bad, or even something very destructive. Nobody knows. This staff is chaotic, like the one who made it. The staff has appeared in several times throughout history. In the first era it was wielded by Yokuden, who spread chaos with it. In the second era it was wielded by the player of the Elder Scrolls Online, in a visit to the Shivering Isles. In the third era, the hero of Daggerfall wielded the staff in a mission given to him by Sheogorath. The champion of Cyrodiil would later wield it as well when aiding Sheogorath, and finally it was wielded by the last Dragonborn within the mind of the Mad Emperor Pelagius the Mad, when he used the Webberjack to cure the late Emperor's mind of his madness. After which the Dragonborn was gifted the staff to use it to spread madness upon Tamriel once again. Now, the next artifact is called the Fork of Horripilation, if I pronounce it correctly. It's a cursed fork created by the Daedric Prince himself. It's just a normal fork, but it's enchanted to have a maddening effect to anyone who uses it. And because the one who wields it, they will get urges to start killing people with the fork. Of course. The fork itself is one of Sheogorath's favorite possessions, and he refers to it as Forky. Throughout the years it has appeared many times in Tamriel to wreak havoc on the people of Tamriel. For example, during the Meritic era, where there was a dragon priest who supposedly by accident found the fork and then turned mad. Later in the second era it was once again found, and this time by the Soulless One, the player of Elder Scrolls Online. And even later it was found by an Argonian called Bighead in Morrowind, who also turned mad like all its other wielders in the past. The Nerevarine retrieved it from Bighead and after a mission returned it to Sheogorath, who then returned it to the Shivering Isles, where it was then later found by the champion of Cyrodiil in the Shivering Isles DLC. The fork made its last appearance in sort of official content in the Staff of Sheogorath Creation Club content of Skyrim, where it was involved in the Dragonborn killing two Netches with the fork for Sheogorath to obtain the Staff of Sheogorath, his next artifact. Now, since the Creation Club is official content by Bethesda, I decided to give it a mention, but keep in mind that the canonicity of this being canon is very much disputed in the community, so keep that in mind. Now, as I mentioned, the next artifact of Sheogorath is the Staff of Sheogorath. The Staff of Sheogorath is not, as many people seem to think, another name for the Webberjack. It's rather Sheogorath's walking cane, and it contains the power of the Mad God himself. It is part of what gives him his mad powers, and it was needed during the Grey March in the Third Era to stop Jiggalag in the Shivering Isle DLC. The staff has appeared multiple times in history, most of the time being wielded by the Daedric Prince Sheogorath himself as a walking cane. Now, as I mentioned before, there's one more appearance of the staff in official material in the Creation Club content called the Staff of Sheogorath, where the Dragonborn had the ability to obtain the staff. But the canonicity of these events is highly disputed within the community. I just wanted to give it a mention. Now, another artifact of Sheogorath's is called Gamble Putty. It's a regal looking glove that is as chaotic as its creator. Now, as a glove, it makes the wielder stronger in half of their skills. Very useful. But it lowers the other half of their skills. Depending on who wears it, this can be very powerful or just very annoying. During the Third Era it was wielded by the Nerevarine, who ended up offering it to Sheogorath as part of a religious pact, where he took it back eventually. Sheogorath's next artifact is called the Staff of the Everscamp. A pretty useful artifact. It spawns 4 Everscamps that will follow and aid the wielder. But as with every artifact of Sheogorath, it has a catch. You will not ever be able to put the staff down or get rid of the staff unless you find someone willing to take it from you and pass on the curse, or you could return it to the Shrine of Sheogorath in Darkfathom Cave. So it's pretty useful, but on the other hand, you can't get rid of it, so I don't know if I would take it. Now, another artifact of Sheogorath is the Folium Discordium. I did completely butcher that pronunciation. It's a book filled with Sheogorath's mad knowledge, a bit like Hermaeus Mora's Ogma Infinium, but with the knowledge of the madman. The knowledge in it can be very useful, however, the untrained mind might go mad and fall under the influence of Sheogorath. But it's said that to the trained mind this tome can give very useful knowledge, that even the likes of Hermaeus Mora cannot just provide. Now Sheogorath's final and least known artifact is called Nebkresen, which is a sword out of legends that is supposedly very powerful but gives the urge to kill people. Like, when you wield it, you get the urge to kill everyone around you. According to the book 16 Accords of Madness, which is its only appearance in the series, Malakath once used it to kill his own son when he touched the sword. Unfortunately, we don't know much more about the sword than what's written in that book. So if you want to know more about it, I would read the whole book.
Vermina, or Vernima, also known as Vernima the Gifter and Weaver of the Panoply, is a Daedric prince whose sphere is the realm of dreams and nightmares, and from whose plane malicious harbingers distribute forth. She is perceived as one of the demonic Daedra, and some have also expressed her sphere ties somehow to suffering. Vermina's realm in Oblivion is titled Quagmire, which is depicted as a nightmare dimension where every few minutes, existence fluctuates and evolves ever more disturbingly. The School of Corruption is Vermina's trademark relic. It is an extraordinary staff that constructs a replication, or clone, of whomever it is cast upon. This duplicate then assaults the initial being at the bidding of the caster. Tales tell that the staff possesses an instinct of its own, and can absorb the recollection of those approximate to it. The School of Corruption is understood to have emerged multiple times throughout history. An emissary of the Blades obtained the artifact from Vermina as an award, and in the 4th Era 201, Vermina also proposed the artifact to the last Dragonborn, although it is unknown what decision the last Dragonborn ultimately chose, whether to take it or leave it. The Orb of Vermina was supposedly utilized for scrying. Some moment prior to the 3rd Era 433, the orb was in the custody of a wizard, and in the 3rd Era 433, it was recollected by the Champion of Cyrodiil, who was granted the Skull of Corruption in favor of Vermina. This orb was supposedly utilized by a Thalmor general to perform espionage on the Imperials amidst the Great War. This relic was recovered by the Forgotten Hero, who either preserved it or eradicated it.
Well, we have finally reached the end of this long list of artifacts. First of all, I would like to thank my friend LadyOfScrolls for working with me on this collaboration. I will pass the mic to her for a moment and then I'll do a little more talking.
Hello, LadyOfScrolls again. I want to thank Imperial Knowledge for collaborating with me on this project. I learned a bit about the Daedric artifacts in the process and also got the privilege to work alongside this amazing content creator. So I also want to thank each of you that stuck around and watched our collab videos. Don't forget to check out some of my content if you're still interested in some more of Imperial Knowledge's content as well, for more Elder Scrolls lore. Thank you!
With that said, we have reached the final end of this video. I hope that you all liked it. There were more summaries than a real lore video, but I still hope that you liked it. I found it personally very informative. I also learned a lot of new things. And if you liked it as well, like, subscribe, and of course subscribe to LadyOfScrolls, who makes Elder Scrolls lore as well in a similar manner to me. So if you enjoy my content, you will enjoy her content. So I guarantee you that. So check her out. With that said, if you want personal contact with me, there's my Discord and Instagram in the description. If you want to support me in a more personal way, there is my Patreon. And, you know, I will see you all in the next lore video. I think that was it. Yeah. Bye-bye.